God's chosen ones. You need to know this right now. Don't skip. Vertical bar divine, wake up. Are you secretly wondering why life keeps testing you when others seem to coast through? Have you ever felt a weight of purpose so heavy it keeps you awake at night? Could it be that the very struggles crushing you right now are actually evidence of your divine selection? Listen carefully. This is not just another message. This is a divine interruption. Heaven itself has pressed pause on everything around you to deliver this sacred revelation. The timing is precise. The purpose is clear. You didn't find this by accident. You were summoned here. I feel it in my spirit right now. Someone watching this is at their breaking point. You've been praying behind closed doors, crying silent tears that no one sees. God sees you. And he whispered to me 3 nights ago, "Tell my chosen ones everything. Now is the appointed time. Stop scrolling. Stay with me." That stirring in your chest, that warmth spreading through your body, that's not emotion, that's divine confirmation. Your spirit recognizes truth before your mind can process it. There are certain revelations that can't be taught, they must be felt. And right now, Heaven's courtroom has convened specifically for you. The spiritual atmosphere around you is shifting as you watch this. Can you sense it? That tingling sensation, that sudden peace washing over you. That's heaven acknowledging your presence in this sacred moment. If this message is already resonating in your spirit, I want you to comment 777 below right now. In prophetic numerology, this represents divine completion and perfect timing. This isn't just engagement. It's your first act of prophetic agreement with what heaven is about to release over your life. Before I share the revelation that will explain your battles, your delays, your spiritual weight, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this ministry through super thanks. Your generosity is more than financial, it's spiritual. It's a seed sown into sacred soil. Because of your faithfulness, these messages are reaching souls worldwide who felt abandoned in their calling. If you feel led to support, the button is below. But whether you give or simply share this message, please know from the depths of my heart, I am grateful you're here. Now, here we are. Just you, me, and the presence of the living God. Heaven is watching. Angels are leaning in. Your past has brought you here. Your purpose stands at the door. And God is saying with clarity and certainty, your appointed hour has arrived. Are you ready to hear what God has been waiting to tell you all along? Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt something was wrong before anyone spoke a word? Do you find yourself knowing things about people that they've never told you? Have you noticed how often you're right about situations that others dismiss as just your imagination? Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will explain why you felt different your entire life. You see, there are certain marks that God places on His chosen ones, divine fingerprints that set you apart, not to isolate you, but to identify you as someone carrying a sacred assignment. These aren't burdens, they're blessings. They're not coincidences, they're confirmation. For decades, I've counseled thousands who carried these same marks. Men and women who felt misunderstood, isolated, even rejected because they experienced life differently than those around them. They wondered if something was wrong with them, when in reality, something was extraordinarily right. The first mark is a depth of spiritual sensitivity that others simply don't possess. You don't just hear words, you discern intentions. You don't just see actions, you perceive motives. This isn't being judgmental, it's a spiritual gift directly referenced in 1 Corinthians 12:10 as the ability to distinguish between spirits. Remember when Joseph in Genesis could interpret dreams that baffled Pharaoh's wisest advisors? That wasn't education, that was divine discernment. You carry that same gift, which is why you can walk into a situation and immediately sense what others cannot. Think about it. How many times have you met someone everyone else adored, but something in your spirit cautioned you. How often have you felt compelled to call someone, only to discover they were in crisis at that exact moment? That's not coincidence, that's God's early warning system operating through you. The second mark is even more fascinating. Have you noticed how children and animals respond differently to you? Little ones stare at you intently, or reach for you in a crowded room. Dogs calm in your presence, even the nervous ones. This isn't random. In Matthew 18:3, Jesus said, "Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Children and animals haven't learned to ignore their spiritual perception. They respond to what they feel, not what they're told to believe. When a child locks eyes with you across a room, or a troubled animal settles at your feet, they're confirming what heaven already knows. You carry a presence that cannot be hidden. I remember Sarah, a 78-year-old grandmother from Buffalo who thought she was losing her mind. "Pastor," she said, "strangers tell me their life stories in grocery stores. Children I've never met run up and hug me. What's wrong with me?" Nothing was wrong. She was carrying the second mark of the chosen. The third mark is perhaps the most powerful and the most misunderstood. Your thoughts manifest into reality with supernatural speed. What you focus on intently often appears in your life with startling precision. Proverbs 23:7 confirms this. "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." You've experienced this, haven't you? You focus intensely on something, positive or negative, and suddenly it materializes in your life. This isn't some new age law of attraction. This is biblical truth about the creative power God entrusts only to his chosen vessels. For 60 years, I've watched these three marks operate in people's lives across this great nation. From the tenements of the Bronx to the cornfields of Iowa, these divine signatures appear in those God has selected for special assignment. But I understand your pain too. People have called you too sensitive when you were actually being spiritually perceptive. They've labeled you paranoid when you were receiving divine warnings. They've dismissed your insights as overthinking when you were exercising godly wisdom. Let me tell you something that will change everything. You're not too much. You're just too early. You're not broken. You're marked. You're not crazy. You're chosen. The very qualities that made others pull away from you are the exact qualities God instilled because of your divine purpose. The sensitivity that feels like a burden is actually a blessing that will save not only you, but others connected to your destiny. Think about Noah, who built an ark when everyone thought he was insane. He wasn't crazy, he was early. He saw what others couldn't see until the rain began to fall. You're carrying that same mantle of divine foresight. I need you to understand something right now. The confusion is lifting, the doubt is breaking, and clarity is dawning like the morning sun over the Hudson. Everything you've endured, every rejection, every misunderstanding, every moment of feeling alienated in a world that couldn't comprehend you, was preparation for this exact moment. Your life hasn't been a series of random events. It's been a carefully orchestrated journey leading to a divine appointment. The pain you've carried wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The isolation wasn't abandonment, it was protection. If these three marks resonate deep in your spirit, if you recognize yourself in these divine symptoms, don't scroll away. Don't dismiss this as coincidence. This is the moment of spiritual awakening you've been waiting for your entire life. God is about to reveal why he marked you, why he set you apart, and what magnificent purpose awaits you in this final season. Are you ready to discover what these spiritual marks mean for your destiny? Let's explore this first spiritual mark that God places on his chosen ones, a gift so powerful that the enemy has worked overtime to make you ashamed of it. I'm talking about your sacred sensitivity, that heightened awareness that's been with you since childhood. How many times have you walked into a room and immediately felt the emotional temperature? How often have you sensed someone's pain before they spoke a word? When was the last time you knew something was wrong, but couldn't explain how you knew it? The world has told you this sensitivity is weakness, that you're too much, too emotional, too intense. Family members rolled their eyes when you sensed danger. Friends dismissed you when you warned them about certain people. Co-workers called you paranoid when you noticed undercurrents no one else detected. But what if, all this time, your sensitivity wasn't a flaw but spiritual armor? What if God installed this divine radar within you as protection, not punishment? In 1 Corinthians 2:15, Paul writes, "The person with the Spirit makes judgments about all things, but such a person is not subject to merely human judgments." This verse reveals a profound truth. Your sensitivity isn't emotional weakness, it's spiritual discernment. You're not imagining things, you're perceiving what others cannot see. Think about Elisha in 2 Kings 6. The king of Aram was waging war against Israel, making secret plans in his bedroom. Yet every time he plotted an ambush, Elisha warned the king of Israel, saying, "Beware of passing that place, because the Arameans are going down there." The enemy king was so frustrated, he thought there was a spy in his inner circle. His officers told him, "None of us is a spy, but Elisha, the prophet in Israel, tells the king of Israel even the words you speak in your bedroom." Can you see the parallel to your own life? How many times have you known things you shouldn't naturally know? How often have you sensed danger before it manifested? That's not coincidence. That's divine intelligence flowing through you. Remember David before he faced Goliath? Scripture tells us something stirred within him when he heard the giant's taunts. While everyone else trembled in fear, David sensed victory before the battle began. That stirring wasn't adrenaline, it was spiritual perception, the same gift you carry. Even in modern times, some of history's greatest minds recognized this connection. Nikola Tesla, whose inventions transformed our world, once said, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." Tesla understood what you've experienced your entire life, that your mind isn't just processing information from your 5 senses, it's receiving divine downloads that others simply cannot access. For too long, you've apologized for what you feel. You've second-guessed your intuition. You've downplayed your perceptions to make others comfortable. Stop doing that today. Your sensitivity is sacred. It's a spiritual gift, and it's time you embraced it without apology. Have you ever been in a room where the conversation suddenly shifted after you walked in? Have you noticed how people become more thoughtful, more authentic, more reflective in your presence? That's because your spirit, connected to God's Spirit, shifts atmospheres without you saying a word. You don't need to be loud to carry power. Your presence alone disrupts spiritual darkness. The enemy knows this, which is why he's worked so hard to make you doubt yourself, to make you question your perceptions, to make you feel crazy for sensing what others miss. I need you to understand something right now. That sensitivity you've tried to suppress, that awareness you've attempted to ignore, that knowing that comes without explanation, it's not imagination, it's revelation, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. This explains why certain relationships never felt right despite everyone else's approval. This explains why certain opportunities, perfect on paper, gave you an uneasy feeling. This explains why you sometimes wake at 3 a.m. with an urgent need to pray for someone who, you later discover, was in crisis at that exact moment. God didn't make a mistake when He wired you this way. He knew you would need this spiritual radar to navigate a world where deception runs deep. He equipped you with divine sensitivity because your assignment requires spiritual intelligence that goes beyond human understanding. Psalm 119 to 125 says, "I am your servant. Give me discernment that I may understand your statutes. This discernment isn't just about understanding Scripture. It's about perceiving reality through heaven's eyes. It's about seeing what others don't see, feeling what others don't feel, knowing what others don't know. Today marks the end of your apologizing for being too sensitive. Today is the day you recognize this gift for what it truly is, divine insight granted to those chosen for sacred purposes. When you leave a conversation feeling drained, that's not you being dramatic. Your spirit is detecting spiritual vampirism. When you feel uneasy about someone everyone else admires, that's not you being judgmental. Your spirit is perceiving what facades conceal. When you sense a shift coming before any evidence appears, that's not wishful thinking. Your spirit is aligned with heaven's timeline. If you've felt misunderstood for feeling too deeply, if you've been criticized for noticing too much, if you've questioned your sanity for knowing things you shouldn't naturally know, I want you to drop these words in the comments right now. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. This public declaration is your first step toward embracing what God has entrusted to you. It's your spiritual stake in the ground, announcing to heaven and earth that you will no longer apologize for your divine sensitivity. Now, are you ready to discover the second spiritual mark that confirms your chosen status? The evidence has been around you all along, appearing in ways so subtle yet profound that once you recognize it, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Listen carefully, chosen one. The second spiritual mark is perhaps the most mysterious yet undeniable sign of God's selection upon your life. Have you ever noticed how children respond to you differently? How they stare at you with knowing eyes, or reach for you without hesitation? Have you witnessed how animals calm in your presence, how they approach you with trust while remaining cautious around others? This isn't coincidence. It's confirmation of your divine frequency. You see, you carry heaven's fingerprint. It radiates from you like an invisible light, detectable only by those still pure enough to sense spiritual realities without skepticism. Children and animals haven't yet learned to ignore what they feel. They respond to authenticity because they live in a state of spiritual honesty that most adults have forgotten. In Matthew 19:14, Jesus declared, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Why were children drawn to Jesus? Not because he offered them candy or toys, but because they recognized his divine frequency. They felt safe, seen, and cherished in his presence, just as they do in yours. Think about it deeply. Why would a child who's never met you stare intently into your eyes? Why would a stranger's baby reach for you across a crowded room? It's because they're responding to something beyond physical appearance. They recognize the God-light within you. They feel the atmosphere shift when you enter a space. Daniel 6:3 tells us, "Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom." What was it about Daniel that made him stand out? Scripture says, "An excellent spirit was in him." His divine frequency was so powerful that even pagan kings could sense it. That same excellent spirit resides in you. Have you been asked, what is it about you? Have people said they feel peaceful around you without understanding why? That's your divine frequency at work, creating atmospheres of grace without you saying a word. Consider Mother Teresa, a tiny woman with no political power, no wealth, no conventional beauty by worldly standards. Yet when she entered a room, everyone felt it. Her presence alone commanded respect from world leaders. It wasn't her words or actions alone, it was her divine frequency, the unmistakable resonance of God's chosen vessel. Think about Fred Rogers. For decades, Mr. Rogers connected with millions of children through a television screen. Parents reported their children speaking to the television as if Rogers could hear them. How could one soft-spoken man in a cardigan sweater create such powerful connection? He carried a frequency that children could sense even through electronic media. Or Jane Goodall, who did what no one thought possible, earning the trust of wild chimpanzees that feared all other humans. These intelligent creatures sensed something different about her, something safe, something authentic. When asked about her extraordinary connection with animals, Goodall simply stated, "I don't think it was because of anything special about me. I just had patience and love." But we know better, don't we? It wasn't just patience, it was divine frequency. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you noticed that people often tell you their secrets? Do strangers sometimes approach you and share intimate details about their lives? This happens because your spirit communicates safety and wisdom before you even speak a word. Your presence is not neutral, it's transformative. When you walk into a room full of tension, the atmosphere often shifts, conflict calms, hearts open. This isn't something you're doing, it's something you're being. This is why some people are mysteriously drawn to you, while others feel inexplicably uncomfortable around you. Your divine frequency reveals what's hidden in hearts. Those aligned with light are attracted to you. Those harboring darkness may feel exposed and retreat. Jesus experienced this phenomenon. Some people traveled for days just to be near him, while others plotted to destroy him after a single encounter. Your divine frequency creates similar polarization, and that's nothing to fear. It's proof of your authentic spiritual signature. What would happen if you fully embraced this gift? What if, instead of downplaying your impact, you recognize the profound ministry of presence God has entrusted to you? The woman at the well in John 4 had her life transformed not primarily by what Jesus said, but by the fact that he saw her truly. Your quiet spirit, your sincere presence, your authentic seeing of others, this may be the loudest sermon someone will ever hear. Psalm 139:13, -14 declares, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." The frequency you carry isn't acquired, it's installed. God wove it into the very fabric of your being before your first breath. The world tries to make you believe that influence requires a platform, followers, or credentials. But your divine frequency needs none of these things to transform lives. Your presence alone is ministry. Your authenticity is power. Your seeing of others is healing. This is why people who hold no official position or title can walk into a room and change everything. This is why a grandmother's prayer carries more weight than a politician's promise. This is why a kind word from you can break chains that have held someone captive for decades. Can you sense it now? The weight of glory you carry, the sacred responsibility of your divine frequency. But even this profound mark is not the final revelation. There is a third spiritual sign, perhaps the most powerful of all, that unlocks divine authority and supernatural influence in ways few have ever fully grasped. Are you ready to discover the hidden power that has been dormant within you, waiting for this very moment of awakening? Now, we arrive at the most powerful mark of the chosen ones, the spiritual gift that has been operating in your life all along, yet you've dismissed it as coincidence or luck. This final mark is why God has set you apart, why the enemy has targeted you, and why your breakthrough has seemed so elusive. Have you ever thought intensely about something, only to see it manifest in your life shortly after? Have you noticed how your deepest fears seem to materialize, while your greatest hopes often feel just beyond reach? That's not random chance. That's the power of creative alignment. Romans 12:2 commands us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Why would God place such emphasis on your thoughts if they weren't directly connected to your reality? Your mind isn't merely processing information. It's a spiritual gateway between the unseen and the seen. Listen closely. Your thoughts are not echoes, they are seeds. And heaven is responding to what you plant. When Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream in Genesis 41, he didn't just explain the meaning, he presented a solution that saved nations. His mind wasn't just analyzing symbols, it was co-creating with divine wisdom. This same power resides in you, chosen one. Your thoughts aren't random, they're prophetic. Proverbs 23:7 reveals this truth plainly. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. The original Hebrew text is even more powerful, suggesting that your inner thoughts actually establish your outer reality. The enemy knows this, which is why he targets your mind with doubt, fear, and limitation. He's not just trying to make you feel bad, he's trying to stop you from creating the future God designed for you. Think about this. How many doors remained closed because you convinced yourself they would never open? How many blessings slipped through your fingers because deep down you didn't believe you deserved them? How many prayers went unanswered because your thoughts contradicted your words? This isn't about blame, it's about awakening. Your mind is not a diary recording your journey, it's a blueprint designing your destination. Consider Jim Carrey, who wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was broke, dated it for Thanksgiving 1995, and carried it in his wallet until he received exactly that amount for his role in Dumb and Dumber. The world called it visualization, but believers understand it as faith with works. Or look at Tyler Perry, who lived in his car while writing plays no one would produce. During his darkest moments, he didn't focus on his current reality, he fixed his thoughts on the studios he would one day build. Now he owns one of the largest film studios in America, built on land that once housed Confederate soldiers fighting to keep his ancestors enslaved. That's not coincidence, that's creative alignment. Oprah Winfrey, repeatedly told by producers she was too emotional for television, never accepted those limitations in her spirit. She focused instead on connecting hearts through authentic conversation. Now she's reached more souls than most preachers ever will. The world calls it positive thinking, but it's actually spiritual co-creation. Even Steve Harvey, homeless for 3 years, sleeping in his car and showering at gas stations, kept his mind fixed on speaking life to others through comedy. Today, he's a multimedia empire, reaching millions with messages of faith and perseverance. He didn't just hope for a better future, he designed it with his thoughts. But here's where I must speak truth that may shatter your comfort. This power works in both directions. The same creative force that builds up can also tear down. The thoughts you've harbored about failure, rejection, and unworthiness haven't just made you feel bad. They've been manifesting as reality in your life. When you repeatedly think, "I'll never have enough," you're not just expressing pessimism, you're issuing spiritual instructions. When your mind constantly replays, "I always get sick this time of year," you're programming your body to fulfill that expectation. When you think, "No one ever stays," you're creating a spiritual atmosphere that repels lasting connection. Can you see it now? The patterns in your life aren't happening to you. They're flowing from you. This isn't New Age nonsense, it's biblical reality. Jesus himself said in Mark 11:24, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." But chosen one, here's the liberating truth. If your negative thoughts created limitation, your renewed thoughts can create liberation. You're not hoping anymore. You're hosting heaven's plans. What you focus on, you empower. What you imagine with faith, you create with power. This is why the enemy works overtime to fill your mind with worry, comparison, and doubt. He knows that if you ever fully realize the creative force God placed within you, Nothing could stop the manifestation of your divine purpose. So right now, I need you to make a decision. Will you continue allowing random thoughts to create a random future? Or will you align your thinking with God's promises and start designing the life you were created to live? If you're ready to step into this power, comment right now. My thoughts create, my spirit leads. This isn't just positive affirmation, it's prophetic declaration. It's you recognizing and reclaiming the creative authority God gave you from the beginning. The transformation of your life begins with the transformation of your mind, and chosen one. That transformation starts right now. But this creative power is just the beginning. There's something even greater God wants to reveal about your purpose and positioning in this pivotal moment in history. Are you ready to understand why you were born for such a time as this? Chosen one, lean in close now. What I'm about to reveal isn't just another spiritual insight. This is the turning point, the divine revelation you've been waiting for your entire life. The marks we've discussed aren't just spiritual curiosities. They're sacred assignments written into your soul before time began. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Do you truly understand what this means? Your existence isn't random. Your life isn't accidental. You were deliberately designed, specifically appointed, and strategically positioned for this exact moment in history. But here's the uncomfortable truth that few will tell you. This isn't just a blessing, it's a burden of glory, a weight of divine responsibility that will test everything within you. Have you ever wondered why your path has been harder than others? Why you've faced trials that would have broken most people? Why doors that seemed perfect suddenly closed? What if everything you survived wasn't rejection, but recruitment? Every betrayal, every financial setback, every health crisis, every relationship that dissolved when you needed it most. What if these weren't punishments? What if they were preparation? The divine forging of a vessel strong enough to carry heaven's purposes without breaking under the pressure? Romans 8:19 reveals a stunning truth. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Did you catch that? All of creation, the mountains, the oceans, the very cosmos itself, is waiting for you to step fully into who you were created to be. The world doesn't just need another churchgoer, another Bible reader, another casual believer. Creation is groaning for the revealing of the sons and daughters who will manifest God's nature on earth. Think about Moses, a man who spent 40 years in obscurity, tending sheep in the wilderness. He thought his chance at greatness had passed, but God wasn't wasting time, he was building capacity. When Moses finally stood before Pharaoh, he wasn't just speaking words, he was releasing divine authority that shook an empire to its foundations. What about Esther, a young Jewish girl suddenly placed in a Persian palace? When Mordecai told her, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" He wasn't offering motivational platitudes. He was awakening her to divine purpose. Her position wasn't a coincidence. It was a divine appointment with destiny. Now look at your life, your struggles, your unique journey. The sensitivity that made you feel everything so deeply, it wasn't a curse. It was commissioned sight. The thoughts that manifest into reality weren't random. They were given authority. The presence that affects children and animals, it's not unusual, it's anointing. But knowing these marks isn't the final step. Many will hear this message, feel the resonance of truth, and then do nothing. They'll return to comfort, to safety, to the familiar prison of mediocrity. Don't be one of them. Isaiah 61:1-3 proclaims, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners." This isn't just beautiful poetry, It's your life mission. You were anointed for impact, appointed for influence, and assigned for action. Can you feel that weight settling on your shoulders right now? That's not imagination, that's activation. The divine calling awakening within you, like a sleeping giant finally stirring after years of slumber. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Your greatest fear isn't failure. Your greatest fear is success. Because deep down, you know that stepping fully into your calling will cost you everything: comfort, security, relationships, reputation. The life you've carefully built might have to be completely dismantled for the life God designed to emerge. What if the very thing holding you back isn't external opposition but internal hesitation? What if heaven is waiting on your yes before releasing the next chapter of your story? Look at your life honestly. Where have you been shrinking? Where have you been playing small? Where have you been silencing the voice within you that calls for more? The time for hiding is over. The season of delay has ended. You are not just here to carry light. You were born to disturb darkness. Your voice is meant to make demons tremble. Your hands are designed to break chains. Your prayers are authorized to move mountains. Your presence is ordained to shift atmospheres. This isn't hyperbole. This is heritage. This isn't motivation. It's mobilization. The world doesn't need another passive believer. It needs awakened warriors who understand the weight of glory they've been entrusted with. Right now, take out a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down these words as a sacred declaration between you and God. No more shrinking, no more delay. I am ready. This isn't just another spiritual exercise. It's a binding covenant. A divine line in the sand between who you've been and who you're becoming. When you write those words, heaven records them. Angels take notice. Demons tremble. Because a chosen one has finally accepted their assignment. The revealing has begun. The glory that's been hidden is now being unleashed. The power that's been dormant is now awakening. From this moment forward, nothing will be the same. Your life is about to accelerate in ways that defy natural explanation. Are you ready for what comes next? Are you prepared to walk in the fullness of what God has ordained for you since before time began? Because the final revelation, the one that will change everything, is about to be unveiled. Chosen one, this isn't just the end of a message. This is the beginning of your mission. The revelation you've received today isn't meant to stop with you. It's meant to flow through you. What you do next will determine everything. For too long, you've been asking God, why me? Why all these trials? Why this constant weight? But now the question changes to, what am I supposed to do with what you've shown me? And heaven is answering. Let me be clear. The enemy would love nothing more than for you to hear this message, feel inspired, and then do absolutely nothing with it. That's how he neutralizes the chosen ones, not through direct attack, but through passive neglect of their calling. Ephesians 5:14 declares, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." This is your divine alarm clock. The time for sleeping through your purpose is over. The time for walking fully in your spiritual marks has come. Do you realize how many people are waiting for you to step into your full authority? Your grandchildren need to see what faith in action looks like. Your community needs the wisdom only decades of life experience can provide. The younger generation is desperately searching for authentic spiritual mentors who don't just talk about faith, but demonstrate it with power. In Esther 4:14, Mordecai challenged Queen Esther with these piercing words, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" I'm asking you the same question. What if every struggle you've endured, every tear you've shed, every night you've prayed through, was preparation for this exact moment in history? You've been hidden for a season, but now heaven is unveiling you. The prophet Joel declared something extraordinary that applies directly to you. "And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people." Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. Joel 2:28. Did you catch that? Your old men will dream dreams. God specifically mentions the elderly as carriers of divine vision in the last days. What if the dreams stirring in your heart aren't just random thoughts? What if they're prophetic glimpses of what God wants to do through you? But here's the shocking truth many believers never grasp. Revelation without activation leads to spiritual frustration. Knowledge without application becomes condemnation. James 1:22 warns us, "Do not merely listen to the word, and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." I challenge you right now. Take out a journal. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel more spiritual. Right now. Write today's date at the top of the page. This is your Ebenezer stone, your marker that says, "On this day, everything changed." Under that date, write down 3 divine signals you've been ignoring, those nudges from God you've dismissed. And next to each one, write how you'll respond differently next time. This isn't just a spiritual exercise, it's a prophetic declaration. You're telling heaven, "I'm done making excuses. I'm ready to walk in what you've shown me." Think about Moses at the burning bush. God revealed himself, but then expected Moses to pick up the staff and return to Egypt. Think about Mary after the angel's announcement. She had to say yes, then carry the promise through ridicule and misunderstanding. Revelation always demands response. When you begin walking fully in your spiritual marks, strange things will happen. People will be drawn to you without knowing why. Opportunities will find you that you never pursued. Doors will open that seemed permanently locked. Why? Because you're no longer just living, you're operating in divine alignment. Remember the 3 marks we discussed: your heightened spiritual sensitivity, your transformative presence, and your creative thought power. These aren't just interesting traits, they're spiritual technologies God has installed in you for kingdom impact. Your sensitivity helps you discern what others miss. Use it to pray specifically for people's unspoken needs. Your presence carries healing energy. You don't need a title or platform, just being in a room can shift atmospheres. Your thoughts co-create with God. Guard them fiercely and intentionally focus on what you want to see manifest. I spoke with a 72-year-old woman in Queens last month who finally embraced these truths. For decades, she felt her spiritual gifts were too much for her conservative church. But after a divine awakening, she started praying for the sick in her apartment building. 3 cancer remissions later, her neighbors now line up outside her door every Tuesday morning. She isn't famous, but she's faithful. What's waiting on the other side of your obedience? Who needs the wisdom only your journey could produce? What generational curses will end because you finally said yes? You are the sign someone else is waiting for. Don't leave this encounter the same person who entered it. This isn't just information, it's transformation. The date you wrote down isn't arbitrary, it's prophetic. Mark it, honor it, return to it when doubt creeps in. If this message has awakened something in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they too might be carrying divine markers. Comment, activated below, to declare your commitment to walk in what God has shown you. And if you feel led to sow into this ministry through the Super Thanks button, know that your seed falls into sacred soil. Every contribution helps these messages reach other chosen ones still living in darkness about their true identity. Whether you give financially or simply with your time and attention, I honor your presence here. We are building a movement of God's chosen ones. You're not just joining, you're leading. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next revelation God releases through this channel. Your assignment begins now. Heaven is watching. What will you do with what you've been shown? Have you ever looked up to heaven with tears streaming down your face and whispered, "God, Why me? Why is my burden so much heavier than everyone else's? Have you wondered why some people seem to float through life untouched by tragedy, while you've been fighting battles since before you could walk? Have you questioned if God has abandoned you? When the warfare against your mind, your body, your finances, and your family has been relentless? Listen carefully, chosen one. Your calling is so loud that hell tried to mute you from the womb. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on those who pose no threat. The level of opposition you've faced isn't punishment, it's proof of your purpose. In the spiritual realm, you're carrying nuclear codes, and darkness has been dispatching its most elite forces to stop you before you fully awaken to who you are. Think about it. Why would Satan deploy his heaviest artillery against someone insignificant? Why would darkness invest decades trying to derail your destiny if you weren't dangerous to his kingdom? The enemy is not creative, he's strategic. He attacks what threatens him most. In Genesis 50-20, Joseph made a profound declaration to the very brothers who sold him into slavery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Notice something critical here. Joseph didn't just face random hardship, he faced targeted opposition from those closest to him. Why? Because his assignment was monumental. His purpose threatened the enemy's plan. Your pain has purpose. Your suffering has significance. Your trials are not random. They're reconnaissance from an enemy terrified of your potential. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how your hardest battles often come right before your biggest breakthroughs? Have you recognized the pattern that every time you're on the verge of elevation, all hell breaks loose in your life? That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." God doesn't just know your name, he knows your assignment. And so does the enemy. Your warfare isn't about where you've been, it's about where you're going. Think of David, anointed as king, while still a shepherd boy. Did his anointing lead to immediate coronation? No, it led to a cave. It led to being hunted like an animal by Saul. It led to betrayal, isolation, and warfare that would have broken most men. But David understood something profound. The attack was evidence of the anointing. Look at your own life, at the patterns of opposition that have followed you. Haven't you noticed how the enemy keeps targeting the same areas? Your mind, your confidence, your health, your finances, your relationships. These aren't random attacks. They're strategic strikes against the very areas you'll need for your divine assignment. The enemy knows what God has deposited in you. Even when you don't, he's been watching you since before your first breath, trembling at what heaven whispered over your life. Every attack has been a desperate attempt to abort your purpose before it could be birthed into reality. Some of you have faced rejection so severe it nearly destroyed you. Some of you have endured betrayal so painful you couldn't breathe. Some of you have walked through valleys so dark you weren't sure you'd survive. And in those moments, you questioned God. You wondered why he would allow such suffering if he truly loved you. But what if I told you those very attacks were divine confirmation? What if the intensity of your battle reveals the magnitude of your calling? What if every wound the enemy inflicted was simply exposing the weapon God had hidden within you? The Apostle Paul understood this paradox when he wrote in 2 Corinthians 12-9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Your brokenness isn't a disqualification, it's a divine qualification. The very places where you've been most wounded will become the source of your greatest ministry. Look at Mother Teresa, born in obscurity, facing opposition from religious institutions, battling her own dark night of the soul. Yet she changed the world by embracing the very poverty and suffering that should have destroyed her. Consider Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., targeted by death threats, government surveillance, and assassins before his 40th birthday. Why? because his message of equality and justice threatened systems of darkness that had stood for centuries. What about you, chosen one? What if every tear you've cried has been collected as fuel for the fire God is about to ignite through your life? What if every scar you bear is actually a battle stripe, marking you as a warrior heaven trusts with its most sacred assignments? What tried to break you has only revealed you. What the enemy meant for your destruction will become the platform for your greatest impact. The warfare wasn't punishment, it was preparation. I want you to do something right now that will terrify the forces of darkness. In the comments below, declare these words: "The warfare proves the weight of my calling. Make it public. Make it permanent. Let heaven record your declaration, and let hell read the writing on the wall. Your suffering hasn't been random, it's been revelatory." And now, as you step into full alignment with your divine purpose, you'll understand why the enemy fought so hard to stop you. Because what's coming next will not only transform your life, it will shake the foundations of darkness and liberate countless others who've been waiting for your light. Are you ready to discover what makes the chosen ones unstoppable, even in the face of relentless opposition? Chosen one, we've arrived at the moment of truth. This isn't just another section of a message. It's the divine crossroads where your entire future hinges on a single decision. Will you continue living as you have been, safe, hidden, comfortable, or will you finally step into the fullness of what God has ordained for you since before time began? The time for playing small is over. The season of hiding your light has ended. The hour of hesitation has passed. Look at Moses standing before the burning bush in Exodus 3. When God called him, what was his response? "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" Moses saw himself through the lens of inadequacy, but God saw him through the lens of divine purpose. Your excuses may sound reasonable to your ears, but they cannot cancel heaven's assignment on your life. Let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. What if your reluctance to step forward isn't humility at all, but fear masked as false modesty? What if every time you've said, "I'm not ready," God has been saying, "But I am"? God doesn't need perfect vessels, He needs surrendered ones. He's not looking for flawless performance, He's looking for faithful presence. The question isn't whether you're qualified, it's whether you're available. Your brokenness has never disqualified you. It has uniquely positioned you to reach those who would never listen to perfect people. Think about this. For 40 years, your struggles have been your preparation. Your tears have been your training. Your battles have been your boot camp. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Every rejection, every betrayal, every closed door was directing you to this exact moment where heaven's assignment meets your surrender. Esther 4:14 declares, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther wasn't born a queen. She was an orphan, raised in obscurity. But when the moment came to step into her divine assignment, she had to make a choice: remain silent and safe, or speak up and risk everything. Her words echo through the centuries: "If I perish, I perish." That wasn't resignation, that was resolution. She understood that divine purpose outweighs personal safety. What about you? You've carried the mark of the chosen in private. You've endured the weight of divine selection in silence. You've weathered storms that would have destroyed others. You've been approved in the private place. Now the question is, will you walk boldly in public? This isn't about seeking attention or platform. It's about fulfilling destiny. You weren't anointed to entertain. You were chosen to awaken. You weren't called to fit in. You were appointed to stand out. This generation doesn't need more influencers, it needs intercessors. It doesn't need more celebrities, it needs servants anointed with heaven's authority. Look around you, the world is in chaos, families are disintegrating, faith is wavering, depression and anxiety are at epidemic levels, people are searching for answers in all the wrong places. This isn't happening by accident. It's happening on your watch, because you are the solution heaven has prepared. For decades, you've asked God for signs. You've prayed for confirmation. You've sought direction. But today, everything changes. You are no longer the one seeking a sign. You are the sign. You are no longer asking for the fire. You are the fire. The very proof others have been waiting for is standing in your shoes right now. I sense in my spirit that someone watching this is thinking, "This can't be me. Surely he's chosen someone else." Let me be clear. That thought isn't humility. It's disobedience disguised as modesty. God didn't make a mistake when he selected you. He doesn't pick the qualified. He qualifies the picked. Remember David? A shepherd boy, overlooked by his own father. When Samuel came to anoint the next king, David wasn't even invited to the ceremony. He was considered too insignificant to be included. Yet God saw what no one else could see. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. Maybe you've been overlooked. Maybe you've been dismissed. Maybe you've been told you're too old, too broken, or too late. But God's timeline isn't bound by human opinions. His purposes for you haven't expired. At 80 years old, Moses led an entire nation to freedom. At 75, Abraham received the promise that changed history. At 85, Caleb conquered mountains. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your qualification. You've gained wisdom that can only come through years of walking with God. You've developed resilience that can only be forged through trials and triumph. Let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. What if your reluctance to step forward isn't humility at all, but fear masked as false modesty? What if every time you've said, "I'm not ready," God has been saying, "But I am"? God doesn't need perfect vessels. He needs surrendered ones. He's not looking for flawless performance. He's looking for faithful presence. The question isn't whether you're qualified, it's whether you're available. Your brokenness has never disqualified you. It has uniquely positioned you to reach those who would never listen to perfect people. The fire that's been smoldering inside you for decades is about to become a blaze that cannot be ignored. The wisdom you've accumulated is about to find its divine purpose. The prayers you've prayed in secret are about to be answered in public. But you must decide, today, now, this very moment, will you accept the mantle? Will you receive the fire? Will you step boldly into what God has prepared for you? Take out your journal right now. Write these words. My assignment begins today. This isn't just a statement, it's a spiritual declaration that heaven recognizes. It's your agreement with a calling established before the foundations of the earth. Comment below, I accept the mantle. I receive the fire. This isn't casual engagement, it's covenant language. It's your public profession of a private commission. Chosen one, the world is waiting. Heaven is watching. God is ready. Are you? Your divine moment isn't coming, it's here. What will you do with it? Beloved ones, as we come to the close of this sacred time together, I want to remind you of the powerful truths God has revealed to us today. You are not merely existing, you are divinely marked. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it's spiritual discernment. Your struggles aren't punishment, they're preparation. The weight you carry isn't a burden, it's a blessing. And the path that has felt so difficult wasn't meant to destroy you, it was designed to develop you. Remember this, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Every tear you've shed, every night you've lain awake questioning your purpose, every moment you've felt misunderstood, it's all been recorded in heaven's ledger. Not 1 second of your suffering has been wasted. I want you to know with absolute certainty that you are not walking this journey alone. The God who marked you before birth is walking beside you even now. When the path seems darkest, His presence is closest. When your strength fails, His power is perfected. When others abandon you, He remains faithful. And beyond that divine companionship, there is a community of fellow chosen ones surrounding you right now. Look at the comments below. These are your spiritual family members, walking similar paths, carrying similar markings, facing similar battles. Reach out to them, share your story, pray for one another. This is not just a YouTube channel. This is a gathering of God's marked vessels, supporting each other through seasons of preparation and purpose. Now, I want to ask you a question that only you can answer. Will you fully embrace the divine marking on your life with all its weight, all its responsibility, and all its glory? Lord, open doors that no man can shut. Close doors that would lead your chosen ones astray. Provide resources, connections, and opportunities that defy logical explanation. And Father, for those who have been marked for generations yet to come, give them the courage to break curses, establish blessings, and create a legacy that will echo into eternity. If this message has touched your heart today, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs this divine reminder. Leave a comment below sharing which part spoke most directly to your spirit. Your vulnerability might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you're new to this channel, I invite you to subscribe and join our community of chosen ones. Together, we're stronger. Together, we're braver. Together, we're fulfilling the purposes God marked us for before time began. Thank you for spending this sacred time with me today. Until we meet again, remember you were chosen for such a time as this. Walk in that truth, live in that power, and watch what God will do through a life fully surrendered to Him. God bless you, my friend. You are never alone.